I have a huge unpopular opinion in the K-pop community. I am obsessed with K-pop survival shows. I don't know what it is. There's something about the mix of trainees and atmosphere and them dancing to our favorite K-pop songs and the struggle and the performances. It all for me is just one big entertaining experiment. I don't know if a lot of people have noticed, but these K-pop survival shows are really a test to see what the audience wants in a new group. All of the position battles, even the concepts, it's kind of just a test to see what the audience wants in their next big boy or girl group. I think in a lot of ways, the producers and the makers of the show are testing what's going to be lucrative at the end of the day. So when it comes to these shows, although I love them very much, I also know that we're not seeing the entire picture. Hence when people say evil editing or angel editing, things of that nature. I do think that we must take into account the staff on these shows. They spend a lot more time with the trainees than we just see. And they film these trainees doing everything. So sometimes I do wonder if they edit the episodes based off what the staff might feel in terms of, being around a trainee for a long amount of time, which is something that happens when you're a K-pop idol. You have to work with a lot of staff for a long time. And maybe some people get angel edits and evil edits because the staff is like, they're really fun to be with behind the scenes, or this person, they can't keep up, or whatever it is. But regardless, I do think it's a great opportunity, whether you make it into the final group or not, to be a trainee on one of these shows. Although it can be mentally taxing and exhausting and very hard to deal with the online banter, because let's be real, K-pop fans can be really critical. But it's a great opportunity for trainees to get their name out there. I think if it wasn't for K-pop survival shows, so many idols in the industry we would not have really known about. So with that being said, watching these shows from conception has not only told me that these shows are an experiment, but when you have an experiment, there's usually a formula. So I am going to try and predict what the final lineup might be for Island 2. Now, when it comes to Island 2, I don't know about you guys, but after Are You Next, I wasn't really ready for another competition show. I will say that I do think Mnet does the best in terms of rules and overall atmosphere and aesthetic of these shows, even though the editing is subjective. But after recently binging the Island 2 episodes and now being right on time to see the final stretch of the next 4 or 3 weeks or so, I'm really excited to see what this group has in store. All of the trainees are very talented, and it's really anybody's game at this point. But due to my experience in watching these shows, I thought it would be fun to give a prediction of the final lineup. When it comes to these survival shows, I have noticed that they usually pick one main vocal, even if there are multiple finalists who could be in that role. This is not to say that the final group doesn't have other vocalists in them, but I tend to see that when the final lineup happens, there is one main vocal who sets the overall tone for the group's aesthetic. And right now, I am seeing 3 major contenders for that position in the final lineup. Number 1 is Jiyoon, number 2 is Jungin, and number 3 is Fuko. Now, if you notice, all 3 of these main vocalist archetypes have distinct characteristics in their voice that separate them from the others. I do think that all 3 would fit well in the Black label, but I also know with the history of how they pick these groups, it will most likely only be one of these girls that gets in as a main vocal. If not, and something changes, I do see Jihoon and Fuko maybe both making it. But with how they've been editing this Jihoon and Jungin situation, it's making me believe that it can only be one of them. So when it comes to main vocalists, these are the 3 candidates that I believe it will be. As far as main dancer is concerned, I do believe that Mnet really would like Coco to be the main dancer, which isn't a surprise considering her growth and stage presence and her body lines. She could really be a great fit for this group, and I'm thinking that Mnet wants her to be the main dancer. For a while there, Sojung was a contender, but I think after last episode's footage, things might go downhill for her in terms of votes. We all know that the trainees on these shows, they are subjected to a lot of scrutiny. So they unfortunately have to watch what they say in these situations. And I don't think that what she said, whether or not it was edited or displayed in a certain way, was a good decision in terms of her making it in the final group. So far I'm seeing Coco as the position for main dancer. The candidates for center, I believe, will be Sebi or Jimin. Both of them have extremely big fans in the producers as well in the iMates. I do see with Sebi, she reminds me a lot of Xiaoting in Girls Planet 999, where she was really praised and loved, but sometimes that affects votes because people think that they're going to make it in the group anyway and don't give their votes to that person. So I do see Sebi making it in the final group, possibly as the center. But if it's a case like with Xiaoting, she might end up making the group as one of the last rankings, which will be a shock to everyone, but there's always that shock factor. Now, Jimin, I do see her having the potential to be center because of her huge fan base from RU Next. I think the way Mnet edits her is kind of this arc of a struggle and then her having a moment to shine in the last stretch, but it could really be either of these two at this point. Now in this category, these are other people who could be members but don't necessarily fit one category because they can do vocals and dance or rap, all of those things. I think Mai could definitely make it into this group. She's reliable, determined. She always does her part, even if it's a small part in the song, and she seems to be a good sport in terms of teamwork. The way Mnet edits her has me thinking that she has potential to be in this group, but they would like her to show a side of herself that really wows the iMates. So I do think they're pushing her. Another candidate I see is Jiyoon. She's a great vocalist, but she could really do a lot of different things. I haven't seen her have a real big moment in terms of dance, but she's kind of an all-rounder. The way Mnet portrayed her at first made me as the viewer feel a little bit uncomfortable with the character they were brewing, but now, 8 or 9 episodes in, I really like Jiyoon. I think her character is really strong, and that's something that we do see in Black Label YG type of concepts. The group is gonna need a really strong identity, and I think she has a personality that really makes her stick out. And for some reason, she reminds me of Rosé. My next candidate is Gyuri. Mnet loves a maknae. She's even good at being center sometimes. I do think that she has a strong possibility to make this group. Now, in terms of final lineup, who I believe will make it in, this is my prediction for the final lineup. And this is in no particular ranking order because I think we all know things get crazy in terms of rankings when it comes to the final.